I'm going to tell you about the worst week of my life. 7 days that changed everything I thought I knew about the world. 7 days that nearly destroyed me. But before I do, I need you to understand something. This isn't a cautionary tale. This isn't folklore or urban legend. This happened to me 3 months ago, and I'm still dealing with the consequences. If you've ever used a Ouija board, or if you're thinking about using one, please listen to what I'm about to tell you, because what happened to me can happen to anyone. My name is Alex. I'm 26 years old. I live alone in a small apartment in the city. I work in IT, I pay my taxes, I'm completely ordinary, or at least I was. 3 months ago, I didn't believe in ghosts. I didn't believe in demons or spirits or anything supernatural. I was a skeptic, a rational person, someone who believed that everything could be explained by science and logic. Now I know better. Now I know that there are things in this world that science can't explain, forces that exist beyond our understanding. And I know that some doors, once opened, are almost impossible to close. This is the story of how I opened one of those doors and what came through. It started as a joke. That's what makes it worse. We weren't trying to contact the dead. We weren't performing some dark ritual. We were just bored college friends hanging out on a Friday night. If I could go back to that night, if I could warn my past self, I would scream at him to stop, to throw that board away, to never, ever touch it. But I can't go back. None of us can. All I can do is tell you what happened and hope that you'll learn from my mistake. Because I opened a door that night and something came through. Something that followed me home. Day 1, the session. Friday, September 15th, the night everything changed. My friends Marcus and Emily were over at my apartment. We'd ordered pizza, had a few drinks, and were looking for something to do. That's when Emily pulled out the Ouija board. Found this at a thrift store, she said, grinning. Thought it might be fun. It was old, the kind you don't see anymore, not the mass-produced Parker Brothers version. This one was made of dark wood, hand-carved with symbols I didn't recognize etched around the edges. The planchette was made of the same dark wood, worn smooth by years of use. I don't know, Marcus said, hesitant. My grandmother always said those things were dangerous, that they could open doorways to bad places. I laughed. Come on, man, you don't actually believe in that stuff, do you? It's just a board game, nothing's going to happen. Famous last words. We set up the board on my coffee table, turned off most of the lights. Emily lit some candles for atmosphere. It felt silly, like we were kids playing make-believe. Okay, Emily said, placing her fingers lightly on the planchette. Everyone put 2 fingers on it, lightly, don't push. We did, Marcus on one side, me on the other, Emily at the top, our fingers barely touching the wooden triangle. Is there anyone here with us? Emily asked. Nothing happened. We sat there for maybe 30 seconds, feeling ridiculous. See, I said, nothing, it's just. The planchette moved, slowly at first, just a slight drift, then with more purpose. It slid across the board to the word yes. Very funny, Marcus said, looking at me. Which one of you is pushing it? I'm not, I said, and I wasn't. I could feel the planchette moving under my fingers, but I wasn't controlling it. None of us were. Emily's eyes were wide. Okay, she said, her voice slightly shaky. What's your name? The planchette began to move again, faster this time. It spelled out Z-O-Z-O. Marcus jerked his hands away like the board had burned him. No, absolutely not, we're done. What? I asked. Who's Zozo? It's a demon, Marcus said, backing away from the table. Or supposed to be. There are stories all over the internet about people contacting something called Zozo through Ouija boards. Bad things happen to them. We need to close this session. Now. It's probably just a coincidence, Emily said, but she didn't sound convinced. Or maybe it's the ideomotor effect, our subconscious moving the planchette without us realizing. The planchette started moving again, even though only Emily and I had our fingers on it now. It moved in a figure-8 pattern, over and over, Z to O to Z to O. "Stop it," Marcus said. "Both of you take your hands off." We did, but the planchette kept moving, for just a second, maybe two. Then it stopped, resting on the letter Z. The room had gotten cold. I could see my breath. The candles flickered, even though there was no breeze. "We need to say goodbye," Emily said. "You're supposed to always say goodbye, to close the connection." We put our fingers back on the planchette. "Goodbye," we all said together. The planchette didn't move. "Goodbye," Emily repeated, louder this time. Still nothing. It sat there on the letter Z, refusing to move. "Just move it yourself," Marcus said. "Force it to goodbye." Emily pushed the planchette to the word goodbye printed at the bottom of the board. The moment it touched the word, all 3 candles went out at once. We sat in the darkness, breathing hard, hearts pounding. "I think we should put this away," I said, reaching for the light switch. When the lights came on, everything looked normal. The board was just a board, the planchette just a piece of wood. The apartment was the same as it had always been. But something felt different, wrong, like the air pressure had changed, like we weren't alone anymore. Marcus left almost immediately, mumbling something about an early morning. Emily stayed a little longer, but she was clearly shaken. "You should burn that board," she said as she was leaving. "Seriously, Alex, get rid of it." "I will," I promised, but I didn't. I put it in my closet, telling myself I'd deal with it later. That was my first mistake, but it wouldn't be my last. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like someone was watching me. I kept hearing sounds, footsteps in the hallway, the creak of floorboards, scratching inside the walls. I told myself it was just my imagination, that I was freaked out by the Ouija board session, and my mind was playing tricks on me. But deep down I knew something had changed, something was different. And at 3:00 a.m. exactly, I woke up to the sound of my closet door opening. Day 2, the first signs. Saturday morning, I woke up exhausted. I had maybe gotten 2 hours of sleep. Every time I started to drift off, I'd hear something or feel something, like there was a presence in my apartment, watching, waiting. The closet door was open. I knew I had closed it before going to bed, but now it stood wide open and I could see the Ouija board inside, exactly where I'd left it. I got up and slammed the door shut. Then I pushed a chair against it for good measure. Ridiculous, I know, but it made me feel better. I made coffee and tried to shake off the feeling of unease. It was just a board game, I told myself. There was a rational explanation for everything that had happened. That's when I noticed my phone. I had 17 missed calls, all from the same number, a number I didn't recognize. And 17 voicemails. I played the first one. Static, heavy breathing, then a voice, distorted, wrong, saying something I couldn't quite make out. It sounded like it was speaking backwards. I deleted it immediately, didn't listen to the others, blocked the number. Probably just a prank caller, I told myself. But my hands were shaking. I decided to get out of the apartment for a while, clear my head. I went to the gym, ran some errands, grabbed lunch at my favorite cafe. Normal Saturday activities, anything to feel normal again. But everywhere I went, I felt like I was being followed. I'd catch glimpses of movement in my peripheral vision, a shadow that didn't quite match any physical object. When I'd turn to look, there'd be nothing there. At the grocery store, I was walking down the cereal aisle when every box on one shelf suddenly fell. Not tipped over, fell, like someone had swept their arm across the shelf, but there was no one there. A store employee came running over. "Did you see what happened?" she asked. "No," I lied. "I just heard the crash." I left my cart and walked out. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had knocked those boxes down, it had been trying to get my attention. I came home around 5 p.m. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it. The chair was still against the closet door. Everything was in its place. But something was wrong, I could feel it. The air was heavy, oppressive, and there was a smell, faint but distinct, like sulfur or rotten eggs. I checked every room. Nothing. I checked the stove, made sure there were no gas leaks. Nothing. The smell was coming from my bedroom. From the closet. I moved the chair and opened the door slowly, half expecting something to jump out at me. The Ouija board was on the floor, not leaning against the wall where I'd left it, flat on the floor, with the planchette placed in the center. And written on my closet wall in what looked like black marker, ZOZO. My blood turned to ice. I hadn't written that. The closet had been closed all day. No one had been in my apartment. I grabbed the board and the planchette. I was going to burn it, right now, in this. I took it to my building's trash area, found a metal barrel that residents used for yard waste, and poured lighter fluid on the board. As I was about to light it, a voice behind me said, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." I spun around. It was Mrs. Chen, my elderly neighbor from the 4th floor. She was staring at the board with an expression of deep concern. "That's a spirit board," she said. "A very old one. Burning it won't help. It will only make things worse." "What do you mean?" I asked. "When you destroy a spirit board, you close the doorway, but whatever came through, it's already here. Burning the board traps it in our world. You need to close the connection properly." "How do I do that?" She looked at me with sad, knowing eyes. "You go back, you contact it again, and this time you say goodbye properly. You make it say goodbye." "I can't do that," I said. "What if it makes things worse?" "It's already worse," she said. "And it will only get worse until you close the door, but you must be careful, whatever you contacted. It's not a simple spirit, it's something else, something old and hungry." She walked away, leaving me standing there with the board and a can of lighter fluid, my hands shaking. I brought the board back to my apartment. What else could I do? I couldn't burn it, not if Mrs. Chen was right. That night things got worse. I was lying in bed trying to sleep when I heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, walking through my apartment. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The apartment was empty, but the footsteps continued, walking from the living room to the kitchen, then to the hallway, then to my bedroom door. They stopped right outside my door. I held my breath, watching the shadow under the door, waiting. The doorknob started to turn, slowly, the door creaking open inch by inch. And there in the doorway was a shadow, darker than the darkness around it, man-shaped but wrong, too tall, too thin, with eyes that glowed with a faint red light. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The shadow moved closer. I could feel its presence, cold, malevolent, hungry. And then it spoke, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, deep, rasping, inhuman. "Mind." I must have passed out. When I came to, it was morning. I was still in bed, phone clutched in my hand. The door was wide open. And on my bedroom mirror, written in condensation, ZOZO. Day 3, the escalation. Sunday morning, I called Emily. I told her everything. The footsteps, the shadow, the writing on the mirror. "You need to get out of there," she said. "Stay with friends, family, anyone." My neighbor says I need to use the board again, to properly close the connection. There was a long pause. "Alex, I don't think that's a good idea. What if it makes things worse?" "How can it be worse than this?" "I'll come over," she said finally. "We'll do it together, but we need to do it right. Research how to properly close a session, get protection." While I waited for Emily, I researched online. I found hundreds of stories about Zozo, people who had contacted it through Ouija boards. Most of the stories were terrifying. One person said their house caught fire 3 days after a Zozo contact. Another claimed to have been pushed down the stairs. Several reported being scratched or attacked while sleeping. But the worst stories were about possession, people who became violent, who spoke in languages they'd never learned, who had to be institutionalized. I was reading one particularly disturbing account when my laptop screen went black. Then text appeared, white letters on a black background, typing themselves out. "Stop reading about me. I'm right here with you." I slammed the laptop shut. My heart was racing. I could feel a presence behind me. I didn't want to turn around, but I had to. The shadow was there, standing in the corner of my living room, watching me. This time I could see more details. It had the rough shape of a man, but its proportions were wrong. Arms too long, fingers too many, and those eyes, those red, burning eyes. "What do you want?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. The shadow moved closer, not walking, gliding, and as it moved, the temperature dropped. I could see my breath. It spoke, and its voice was like nails on a chalkboard. "You opened the door. You invited me in. Now you're mine." "I didn't invite you," I said. "I want you to leave." It laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. "You can't make me leave. This is my home now. You are my home." That's when Emily arrived. She knocked on the door and the shadow vanished instantly, like it had never been there. I let her in. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "It was here, wasn't it?" she asked. "Just now." I nodded. Emily pulled out a bag. Inside were candles, sage, salt, and a small bottle of holy water. "I stopped at a spiritual supply store," she said. "The woman there knew about Zozo. She gave me these, said we need to create a protective circle before we try to contact it again." We set up in the living room. Emily created a circle of salt around where we would sit. She lit the sage and walked through the apartment, smudging every corner. She placed candles at the 4 cardinal points and sprinkled holy water around the perimeter. "This should protect us," she said. "At least that's what the woman said." "Should?" I asked. "She said Zozo is powerful. That protection only works if we're strong, if we don't let fear control us." We sat down with the board between us, placed our fingers on the planchette. "Zozo," Emily said, her voice firm. "We know you're here. We're giving you one chance to leave peacefully. Will you go?" The planchette flew across the board so fast it flew off the edge, clattering onto the floor. The candles all blew out at once, and the temperature plummeted. The shadow appeared, but this time it was different, bigger, more solid, and it was angry. It moved toward us, and I saw Emily go pale. She grabbed the holy water and threw it at the shadow. The shadow recoiled, and for a moment it seemed to weaken, but then it grew larger, more solid, and it screamed. The sound was inhuman. It shattered every glass in my kitchen. The windows cracked. The apartment shook. "Get out," Emily screamed. "In the name of God, get out." The shadow lunged at her. She flew backwards, hitting the wall hard. The salt circle was broken. I grabbed Emily and pulled her toward the door. We ran out of the apartment, not stopping until we were on the street. Emily was bleeding from a cut on her head. "Are you okay?" I asked. "We made it angry," she said, her voice shaking. "Alex, we made it so much worse." We went to the hospital. Emily needed stitches. While we were waiting, my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. "You can't run. I'm inside you now." That night I stayed in a hotel. I didn't go back to my apartment. I couldn't. But it didn't matter. Zozo followed me. Day 4, the attachment. Monday morning. I woke up in the hotel room and immediately knew something was wrong. My entire body ached. My head was pounding and I felt different, wrong, like something was inside me that didn't belong. I looked in the bathroom mirror and gasped. My eyes had dark circles under them like I hadn't slept in days, but it was more than that. There was something in my eyes, a darkness, like shadows moving beneath the surface. And on my chest, written in what looked like scratches, ZOZO. I hadn't done that to myself. I'd been asleep. I called in sick to work. There was no way I could function. I was exhausted, terrified, and I felt like I was losing my mind. That's when I started losing time. I'd be sitting on the hotel bed, and then suddenly I'd be standing in the bathroom with no memory of getting up. Or I'd be looking at my phone, and hours would have passed that I couldn't account for. And the voices started, not out loud, in my head, whispers, multiple voices all talking at once. Most of it was incomprehensible, but occasionally I'd make out words. Mine, forever, can't escape, give in. I tried to call Emily, but my phone died. When I plugged it in, the screen showed 666% battery. That's impossible, but there it was. The phone turned on by itself and started calling random numbers. I could hear them ring, but when they answered, all they got was static and that same backward-sounding voice from the voicemails. I threw the phone across the room. That's when I saw it in the corner of the hotel room. The shadow, bigger than before, more solid, watching me with those glowing red eyes. "Leave me alone," I screamed. It laughed, that horrible, scraping laugh. "You still don't understand. I'm not in your room. I'm in you. I'm part of you now. And soon there won't be any difference between us. What do you want from me?" "Everything, your body, your mind, your soul. You opened the door, you let me in. Now you're mine." I ran out of the hotel room. I don't know where I was going. I just ran. Through the hotel lobby, out onto the street, running until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I found myself outside a church. I'm not religious. I never have been. But in that moment, it felt like the only place I might be safe. I went inside. The church was empty except for an old priest lighting candles at the altar. He took one look at me and his expression changed. "You're in trouble," he said, not a question, a statement. I think I'm possessed," I said. The words felt insane even as I said them, but what else could I call it? The priest sat me down and I told him everything. The Ouija board, Zozo, the shadow, the voices, all of it. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "This is beyond my abilities. You need a priest who specializes in exorcisms, but I can help you temporarily. I can bless you, create a temporary barrier." He performed a blessing, anointed me with holy oil, prayed over me in Latin, and for the first time in days I felt a moment of peace. The voices in my head quieted, the shadow retreated. "This won't last," the priest warned. "Whatever has attached itself to you is powerful. You need to see Father Miguel. He's in the next town over. He has experience with this kind of thing." He gave me Father Miguel's address and phone number. "Go tonight. Don't wait. The entity will fight the blessing. You have maybe hours, not days." I thanked him and left. As I walked out of the church, I felt the presence return, weaker than before, but still there, always there. I called Marcus, told him I needed a ride. He could hear the desperation in my voice and agreed immediately. While I waited for him, I felt the entity getting stronger. The blessing was already wearing off. I could feel it pushing against the barrier, testing it, probing for weaknesses. And then I lost time again. One moment I was standing on the sidewalk outside the church. The next moment, I was back in my apartment, standing in front of the closet. The Ouija board was in my hands. I had no memory of how I got there. I didn't even have my keys. The door should have been locked, but here I was. The planchette started moving on its own, spelling out a message, "Play with me." "No," I said, dropping the board. But my hands picked it back up, without my conscious control. My body was moving, but I wasn't the one controlling it. I watched in horror as my own hands set up the board, placed the planchette, and began to move it. Mine always, forever. That's when Marcus found me. He'd used his emergency key when I didn't answer the door. He saw me with the board and ran over, knocking it out of my hands. "Alex, snap out of it." I blinked. Suddenly I could control my body again. "We need to go," I said. "Right now, please." Marcus didn't ask questions. He grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the door. As we left, every picture frame in my apartment fell off the wall at once. The windows all shattered, and I heard that voice screaming in rage. "You can't leave me." But we did. We ran to Marcus's car and drove, away from the apartment, away from the city, toward Father Miguel. And toward what I hoped would be my salvation. Day 5, the exorcism attempt. Father Miguel's house was in a small town about 2 hours away. We arrived just after dark. The priest was older than I expected, maybe 70, but his eyes were sharp, and when he looked at me, I felt like he could see right through me, see the thing that was attached to me. "How long has it been attached?" he asked. 5 days, I said. He nodded. "You came just in time. Much longer and it would have been too late. The entity would have fully bonded with your soul. At that point, removal becomes difficult, sometimes impossible." "Can you help me?" I asked. "I can try, but you must understand this will not be easy. The entity will fight. It will use your own fears against you. It will try to convince you that removal will kill you. You must be strong. You must want it gone." "I want it gone," I said with absolute certainty. Father Miguel led me to a room he had prepared. It was simple: white walls, a single chair in the center, candles arranged in a circle, religious symbols on every wall. "Sit," he instructed. I sat in the chair. Marcus stood in the corner, watching nervously. Father Miguel began to pray in Latin. As he did, I felt the entity inside me stir. It was angry, afraid. The temperature in the room dropped, the candles flickered, and the voices in my head grew louder. "No, don't let HIM kill you. We're one now. You need me." Father Miguel intensified his prayers. He sprinkled holy water on me. The water burned where it touched my skin, like acid. I screamed. I couldn't help it. The pain was incredible. And then I wasn't in control anymore. The entity took over completely. My body stood up. My voice spoke, but it wasn't my voice. It was deep, guttural, multiple voices speaking at once. "You cannot cast me out, priest. He is mine." I claimed him. He opened the door. He invited me in. Father Miguel didn't flinch. "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave this man." My body laughed. "Your God has no power here. This one is mine. He will die before I release him." Father Miguel continued his prayers, louder now, more forceful. Inside my own head, I was screaming, fighting for control. It felt like my mind was being torn apart. The entity was holding on with everything it had. Then my body did something I didn't expect. It charged at Father Miguel, hands reaching for his throat. Marcus tackled me. We crashed to the ground. I, or the thing controlling me, fought with inhuman strength. It took both Marcus and Father Miguel to hold me down. "Hold him," Father Miguel shouted. He pressed a crucifix to my forehead. The pain was beyond description. It felt like my skull was splitting open. I could smell burning flesh, my own flesh. And then something inside me broke. The entity's grip loosened, just for a moment. I fought with everything I had, pushing it out, rejecting it. "Get out," I screamed with my own voice. Father Miguel's prayers reached a crescendo. The room shook. The candles all went out at once, and I felt something tear free from inside me. The shadow appeared in the corner of the room, separate from me now, visible to everyone. It was massive, 8 feet tall at least, with those burning red eyes and too many fingers reaching toward me. "This isn't over," it said, its voice shaking the walls. "You're marked. You'll always be marked. I'll be back." Father Miguel threw holy water at it. The shadow recoiled, screaming. Then it vanished, not gradually, just gone. I collapsed. Every muscle in my body was exhausted. I was shaking, covered in sweat, barely able to breathe. But the voices were gone. The presence was gone. For the first time in 5 days, I was alone in my own head. "Is it over?" I asked weakly. Father Miguel looked worried. "For now, but the entity spoke the truth. You are marked. It may try to return. You must be vigilant. Pray daily. Wear this." He placed a blessed medallion around my neck. "Never take this off, and never ever use a spirit board again." I promised I wouldn't, and I meant it. Marcus drove me back to the city. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? We'd both witnessed something that shouldn't exist. Something that changed everything we thought we knew about reality. I couldn't go back to my apartment. The landlord had already called. The damage from when we left was extensive. The lease was terminated. "Marcus let me stay with him, just until you find a new place," he said. That night I slept for the first time in almost a week. No nightmares, no voices, just peaceful, dreamless sleep. I thought it was over. I really did. But when I woke up the next morning, there was a message on the bathroom mirror, written in condensation. "See you soon, Alex. DAYS 6 and 7, the aftermath." The message on the mirror should have terrified me, and it did, but I also felt different, stronger. The exorcism had weakened the entity's hold on me. I wasn't helpless anymore. I contacted Father Miguel. He wasn't surprised. "Entities like this don't give up easily," he explained. "It's testing you, trying to frighten you, trying to regain its hold through fear." What do I do? Don't engage, don't acknowledge it, don't let fear control you, and most importantly, destroy the board, properly this time. The board was still in my apartment. Marcus and I went back during the day. I refused to go at night. We brought Father Miguel's instructions. Break the board into 7 pieces. Sprinkle each piece with holy water and salt, then burn them separately in different locations. The apartment was a disaster, not just from the damage we'd caused leaving. New destruction had appeared. Walls were scratched deeply like claws had raked across them. Every mirror was shattered, and written on the walls in dozens of places, ZOZO. We found the board in the bedroom. It was sitting on the bed, the planchette positioned on the letter Z. Marcus hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" "It has to be done," I said. I picked up the board. The moment I touched it, I heard that voice in my head, faint but clear. "Don't do this. We can still be together. I can give you power, knowledge, anything you want." "No," I said out loud. "You're not welcome. You never were." I smashed the board against the floor. It didn't break. I tried again. Nothing. The wood should have splintered, but it was like trying to break solid steel. "It's protected," Marcus said. "The entity is protecting it." I pulled out the vial of holy water Father Miguel had given me and poured it over the board. The wood hissed like water on a hot pan. Smoke rose from it, and the protection broke. I smashed it again, and this time it cracked. Again and again until it was in pieces. 7 pieces, just as Father Miguel instructed. As we separated the pieces, the apartment started to shake. Objects flew off shelves. The lights flickered, and that scream, that inhuman scream of rage, filled the air. We grabbed the pieces and ran. We burned them one by one over the next few hours. Different locations, just as instructed. A church parking lot, a beach, a remote field. Each place we chose carefully, each piece treated with salt and holy water before burning. When the final piece burned, I felt something, like a cord being cut, a connection being severed. The 7th day had arrived, a week since that Friday night when we'd first contacted Zozo. That night I slept at Marcus's place again. This time there were no messages, no voices, no shadow in the corner. Just silence, blessed, peaceful silence. But the mark on my chest remained. ZOZO, scratched into my skin. It faded over time but never completely disappeared. A reminder, a warning, a scar that would stay with me forever. Epilogue 3 months later. It's been 3 months since that week. 3 months since I opened a door I should have left closed. I found a new apartment, on the 5th floor of a building with good security. I had Father Miguel come and bless it before I moved in. Every door has salt across the threshold. Every window has a cross. I keep holy water in every room. Some people might think I'm paranoid. Maybe I am, but I'm also alive, and sane, and free. Mostly free anyway. Because the truth is, it's not completely gone. I still feel it sometimes, late at night, in the moments between waking and sleeping, a presence, watching, waiting. Sometimes I hear whispers, just at the edge of hearing, words I can't quite make out. And occasionally, very occasionally, I'll see a shadow, in the corner of my eye, gone when I turn to look. Father Miguel says this is normal, that the entity formed a connection that may never fully break, that I'll always be vulnerable to it, that I need to stay vigilant. I wear the blessed medallion every day. I pray every night, not because I've become religious, I haven't, but because I know what's out there now. I know what exists in the darkness. Emily doesn't talk to me anymore. The experience traumatized her. She moved to another state, changed her phone number. I don't blame her. Marcus checks on me regularly. We don't talk about what happened unless necessary. But I know he has nightmares too. I know he sees things he can't explain. That's what happens when you peek behind the curtain. When you see the truth that most people never see, you can't unknow it. You can't unsee it. I've thought about sharing this story many times, warning people, but who would believe me? Most people would think I'm crazy, that I had a psychotic break, that it was all in my head. Maybe they're right. Maybe it was all a hallucination, sleep deprivation, stress, a mental breakdown. But I know the truth. The scars on my chest know the truth. The mark that never fully faded knows the truth. And if you're watching this, thinking about using a Ouija board, thinking it's just harmless fun, I'm begging you, don't. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't open doors you can't close. Don't invite in things you don't understand. Because some things, once invited, never truly leave. Some doors, once open, can never be fully closed. I learned that the hard way, during 7 days of absolute hell. 7 days that changed my life forever. Last night I woke up at 3:00 a.m. Something made me look at my phone. There was a message from an unknown number, just 4 words. I still remember you. I deleted it, blocked the number, said a prayer, held my medallion. But I know, deep down I know. It's still out there, still watching, still waiting. Waiting for me to let my guard down. Waiting for a moment of weakness. Waiting for another chance. Because I'm marked, I'll always be marked. And Zozo never forgets. End.